Childhood emotional neglect is rarely a sudden realization or a single moment of clarity. Instead, it's a quiet, unfolding process where the world slowly starts to feel a little more colorful and a lot less heavy. When you grow up in an environment where your emotions were ignored, minimized, or invisible, you learn to survive by turning off your inner compass. But as you heal, that compass starts to flicker back to life. There are 6 profound signs that indicate you are moving out of the shadows of the past and into a more authentic version of yourself. The first sign is a fundamental shift in how you handle your own needs. For a long time, you might have been the ultimate low-maintenance person, someone who prided themselves on never needing anything from anyone. This was a survival tactic. If you don't ask, you can't be rejected. But as you heal, you begin to experience the end of the "I'm fine" syndrome. You start to recognize that having needs isn't a burden, it's simply part of being human. You might find yourself stating a preference for a restaurant instead of saying, "I don't care." Or even more significantly, you might find the courage to ask a friend for support during a hard day. This transition from being a ghost in your own life to being a participant with valid desires is one of the most beautiful milestones of recovery. Building on that self-awareness, the second sign is the development of a real emotional vocabulary. Childhood emotional neglect often leaves people alexithymic, which is just a technical way of saying they have trouble identifying what they are feeling. You might have spent years feeling a vague sense of offness or anxiety without knowing why. Healing changes this. Instead of just feeling bad, you start to distinguish between nuance. You realize you aren't just stressed, you're actually feeling lonely, or perhaps you're feeling a specific kind of grief. When you can name the feeling, you reclaim power over it. You stop running from the internal noise because you finally understand what the noise is trying to tell you. The third sign is perhaps the most visible in your daily life: the establishment of healthy boundaries without the crushing weight of guilt. In the past, saying no might have felt like a life-threatening risk or a deep moral failing. You likely felt responsible for everyone else's happiness because you were never taught that your own peace matters too. As you heal, you begin to realize that no is a complete sentence. You start to protect your time and energy, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You might still feel a tiny prickle of guilt when you turn down an invitation or set a limit with a family member, but it no longer controls your decision. You've realized you can be a kind person and still have walls that keep you safe. This leads naturally into the fourth sign, which is a significant softening of your inner critic. We often internalize the neglect we experienced as children, turning it into a voice that tells us we are dramatic, too sensitive, or fundamentally flawed. Healing sounds like the volume being turned down on that harsh internal judge. You start to practice self-compassion, treating yourself with the same gentleness you would offer a dear friend. When you make a mistake, your first instinct shifts from "I'm so stupid" to "I'm having a hard time, and that's okay." You begin to reparent yourself, providing the validation and warmth that was missing during your formative years. The fifth sign is a change in the quality of your relationships. When you've been emotionally neglected, you often gravitate toward one-way friendships, where you do all the listening and giving, or you might find yourself drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable, just like your caregivers were. As you heal, your tolerance for these dynamics drops. You start to crave and seek out true reciprocity. You find yourself attracted to people who actually see you and ask how you're doing, and more importantly, you stay long enough to let them answer. You stop performing for affection and start belonging for who you are. Finally, the sixth sign is the emergence of a sense of agency and self-presence. You no longer feel like a passenger in your own life, watching things happen to you from a distance. You feel in your body. You start to trust your gut instincts because you've spent time listening to them. You recognize that you have the power to change your circumstances and that your future is not just a carbon copy of your past. There's a new sense of vitality, a realization that you are allowed to take up space, to be heard, and to be happy. Healing from neglect isn't about becoming a perfect, emotionless person. It's about becoming a whole one. It's about realizing that the child who was once told their feelings didn't matter was actually right all along. Those feelings are the very thing that make life worth living. If you see these signs in yourself, even in small ways, take a moment to acknowledge the incredible work you've done. You are teaching yourself how to be loved, and that is a profound achievement.